Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. Tasmania is being given a shocking wake-up call by one of the nation's leading economists. A much-anticipated independent report by Saul Eslake foretelling a bleak future marked by ballooning debt and an unsustainable state budget. And he's placing the blame squarely on policy decisions made by the government.
One of the country's leading economists, Saul Eslake, is handing Tasmania a red card.
Tasmania's financial position will, over the next 3 years, become as bad as that of Victoria and the Northern Territory.
Predicting the state's debt will grow to $16 billion by 2035, more than a quarter of the value of everything we produce. And he's pointing the blame squarely at the government.
The deterioration in Tasmania's financial position up to 2022-23 was entirely the result of policy decisions made by the government of the day.
The Jackie Lambie members who commissioned the report say we're in the eye of the storm.
You look at the projections for the next 10 years and you think that something really has to change.
The report outlining 3 main ways to bridge the gap.
Cut spending, raise more revenue, or sell assets.
But when it comes to cutting spending, he says planned health cuts aren't going to help.
Vacancy controls and efficiency dividends are a very poor way of achieving that objective and often result in greater inefficiency rather than improved efficiency.
One solution is to increase taxes, but the government's adamant that's not going to happen.
We're not going to be increasing taxes. We're not going to be introducing new taxes.
Calls are growing for the Deputy Premier to be held to account. His job as Treasurer described as untenable.
I guess the buck has to stop somewhere, and I guess it stops at the top.
Now he's delivered the biggest deficit in the state's history, not by a little way.
But Michael Ferguson is keeping a rosy outlook.
We, of course, will be returning the budget to surplus, but we need to do it in the right time frame, otherwise you damage your economy.
Fed up Tasmanian nurses are speaking out as they prepare for industrial action. They want solutions to understaffing and unattainable workloads, but most importantly, they want our leaders to listen.
Feeling overworked, under-resourced and out of patience, Tasmanian nurses are speaking out.
We're burdened with the knowledge of knowing that potentially our patients are not receiving the care they deserve, and that the care they are receiving is compromised.
As part of industrial action which started today, nurses will wear campaign material on shift and encourage patients to escalate their concerns about the health system.
We certainly hope that through this action we can demonstrate the dire need for the resources to be put in to support not only our members but the community members who are accessing healthcare services.
The union issuing its own code yellow at the LGH's emergency department yesterday and today, claiming less than the bare minimum were rostered on across ED, with one patient waiting 48 hours for a bed, insisting it's not an isolated situation.
That is typical, that has been going on for years. It just means that nurses are spread a lot thinner on the ground.
But the state government maintains a lifeline's on the way as it continues to recruit.
Next month's budget will deliver the commitments we made for more frontline staff in our hospitals.
Unions and health staff say their fight is far from over, committing to further industrial action if their calls for change remain unanswered. Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmania News.
A teenage boy has died in the far south while tree felling with his father. The 17-year-old was hit and killed by a falling branch in Dover. Emergency services were called shortly after 4 p.m. yesterday. The boy died at the scene while his father received non-life-threatening injuries. Tasmania's biggest bank is about to get a lot bigger as it eyes off a merger with an interstate rival. If approved, it would make MyState Bank one of the top listed companies in Australia, but it could mean a name change.
It's been serving Tasmanians for more than a century, and now MyState Bank is poised to lure Australians across the country. The merger with Queensland Regional Bank, Auswide, will see MyState Bank's balance sheet become instantly bigger.
For the last 3 years we've been focused on growing MyState, and we've grown about 45%. This announcement means that we'll grow 50% overnight when it completes.
The merger not an uncommon path for smaller banks to follow, with the Australian banking landscape having borne witness to multiple amalgamations in recent years.
Federal banking regulators have been over time putting significant pressure on smaller banks and smaller superannuation funds to get bigger.
Whilst there's one less player in the market, for want of a better word, that player is more substantial, it's stronger and should be able to compete on a much better footing with the big four banks.
It would mean a combined total of more than 270,000 customers, which the bank says will allow for greater access to capital and allow greater investment in the customer experience.
It means we can become a even bigger employer in Tasmania. So at the moment we have about 350 employees in Tasmania. This gives us an opportunity to make it an even bigger employer and better employer.
For MyState Bank customers here in Tasmania, it's business as usual, with most unlikely to notice any changes from the merger. However, the amalgamation will see MyState Bank become one of Tasmania's biggest ASX-listed companies and among the top 300 in Australia.
And it's very rare to have an ASX-listed company headquartered in Tasmania.
Well, the marriage requires regulatory approval, including a sign-off by the Federal Treasurer. It's expected to be approved and a done deal by December. Melinda Ogden, 7 Tasmania News.
The Clarence Mayor is hitting back at Greens MLC Cassie O'Connor's claims he harassed and intimidated women within the Liberal Party. Brendan Blomley says the comments made under parliamentary privilege last week are defamatory and unsubstantiated. He's written to the President of the Legislative Council asking for the Greens member to be referred to the Privileges and Conduct Committee and for him to be given the right to formally respond in Parliament. Construction works on the West Tamar Highway at Lagana are expected to be completed by December next year. The duplication of 2 lanes in each direction between Freshwater Point and Acropolis Drive is aimed at reducing traffic congestion.
Before the work started, we see traffic lined up from Lagana Park Drive roundabout to beyond the Freshwater Point Road roundabout, which is about 2.5 kilometres. And I think that should all clear from this area once the work's complete.
A new roundabout will also be built at Bridge North Road. The cost of the entire project is expected to run to $28 million. At least 6 Tasmanian solar installers are caught up in an alleged rebate rort, which has cheated companies out of millions of dollars nationwide. Emerging Energy Solutions has been plunged into liquidation, leaving hundreds of creditors in the dark.
Brad Hibbard's electrical company is owed $30,000. He's among hundreds of businesses left out of pocket following the collapse of Emerging Energy Solutions.
It's us footing the bill for this. When people go into liquidation, we just don't get paid.
The company urged customers to use its Greenbot app, helping solar installers chase clean energy rebates from the federal government. That was until it went under earlier this month, owing more than $86 million to creditors across the country.
Subcontractors are always ones that are picking up the bill and footing the bill and most likely not getting paid. So this is just an extension of that hurt.
The liquidator is investigating allegations the company has multiple operations, but until then, small contractors are being left in the dark, staring down the barrel of legal action.
We'll keep rolling with the punches on this one and hopefully it doesn't come to that and we can get our money as quick as possible.
To help foot the bill and protect the industry's future, the Electrical Contractors Association wants the Clean Energy Regulator to clean up its own act.
If you can't trust a federal government-backed scheme to get paid, I'm sure contractors in the future will just not go near these very important rollouts.
Victoria Risto, 7 Tasmania News.
It's a trauma not always obvious to others, but Tasmanians living with a brain injury have shared how it's impacted their lives, taking part in a gallery exhibit at the Amuna Arts Centre. Car crash survivor Nick Bailey advocating for greater community awareness about the long-term effects.
I was still naive when I was 25 years old, and then I was reset to about the age of a 2-year-old, and it's taken a long time to get that confidence back.
If it's not recognised in the community, then we can have some really serious issues of people not accessing the right supports at the right time.
Today's launch forming part of National Brain Injury Awareness Week.
After returning from a near 12-month stint on the sidelines, Lauderdale's Jordan Lane is bouncing back to form at the perfect time to help the Southern Bombers stay in the hunt for a home final. The forward booting 17 goals in his last 5 games, 3 of those coming from his side's 22-point win over North Hobart on Saturday.
I'm also missing a fair few goals, which I probably could have kicked a few more that I have, but yeah, just as long as I'm getting my hands on the ball and, we're working well down there.
The Bombers have their bye this week before facing Kingborough to lock in their finals fate. Well, Jordan's effort wasn't enough to take the top vote in the Cripps Player of the Year. Instead, North Hobart's Angus Norton takes the points. Jack Tompkinson takes the 3 for Kingborough after beating Glenorchy. And Alex Lee, the top vote winner from North Launceston's win over Clarence. Motorsport Australia is investigating this incident in the Symmons Plains pits yesterday afternoon when Thomas Randall was blocked from entering the Red Bull garage by their team manager. Randall says he was coming to apologise to Brock Feeney for this collision on the track during Sunday's race. The governing body received a complaint from Randall's Tickford team. Jed Beaton has fallen agonisingly short of the Australian Motocross Championship crown, despite a clean sweep on the final round of racing in Queensland. Fighting his way from 6th on the opening lap of race 1, he stormed home more than 8 seconds ahead. The Northwest rider won every race to finish on equal points with arch nemesis Kyle Webster. The championship was decided on countback wins across the season, with Jed coming in second. And a last-minute decision to enter the Australian Cyclocross Championships has paid off for Tasmanian Izzy Flint, winning the race in a dominant performance. The current under-23 mountain bike cross-country national champ set a brutal pace from the start, carving out a 5-second lead in the first lap. She went on to win by more than a minute and a half.
Good evening. Hobart and Burnie 13 degrees today, Launceston and Devonport 12. Temperatures range from -7 at Lyowini to our high of 15 on King Island. Bushy Park 14 today, Flinders Island, Smithton, St Helens, Friendly Beaches, Grove and Strawn all 13 degrees. Low cloud over our northern extents today, scattered cloud over the west, south and east coasts. A low pushes cloud over the southern part of WA as a cold front has cloud over South Australia, some convective cloud across New South Wales, Victoria and southeast Queensland. Tomorrow the high moves to the east over the Tasman. That will create a northerly flow over Tasmania. Troughs and cold fronts are all over the map too, one expected to cross the state late in the day. The north to northeasterly winds will sit mainly around the 10 to 20 knot pace, but lifting to 20 to 30 knots over the west coast. Strong wind warning there too, all the way from southeast Cape up to Stanley. And a frost warning out for the Midlands and Upper Derwent Valley. So another expected cold start tomorrow. 3 for Hobart, a late shower and 17. 15 the top for Adventure Bay, a late shower for Tarraleah. -2 to 12 the temperature range. Launceston 16, showers increasing. Devonport 15 and 16 for Bridport, plenty of wet weather. Burnie showers increasing as well, 13 the top, 16 for Strawn. Showers for Marrawar as well, 14 degrees. St Helens a high of 15 with a shower or 2. Partly cloudy for Swansea, 3 overnight, 17 the top, 17 also on Flinders Island. On Wednesday, scattered showers on the way, but more widespread over the north and west of Tasmania. More scattered showers on Thursday, not so much over the east. And on Friday, showers mainly over the west and south, falling as snow to 900 metres. A shower or 2 in Perth, showers in Adelaide and developing later in Melbourne. A sunny 22 degrees in Sydney tomorrow and 23 the top in Brisbane with a shower there. And right now, partly cloudy conditions right around the state. Kim, got to say, great fun filling in for you while I was away, but while you were away, but I don't know how I'm going to cope with the drop in pay now.
Oh, you'll be fine, I reckon. That is all your news for now. We'll be back later with news, sport and weather updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night.